Warm greetings to you all. As was rightly pointed out, my name is Kwasi Arizi, a lecturer at the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences, University of Cape Coast. Today, I am going to give a talk on the topic sustainable fisheries management. Is it clear to you? Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, Doc.
And am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so as I indicated earlier, my lecture is going to focus on sustainable fisheries management. And this is the outline of my presentation. I am going to explain what a fishery means, the importance of fisheries, what is meant by unsustainable fisheries, and then sustainable fisheries, why there is a need for a sustainable fisheries management. And then we'll be looking at some scopes of fisheries management, kinds of fisheries management process, and some ingredients of sustainable fisheries management. So by way of introduction, someone may ask, what is a fishery? A fishery is simply an interaction among fish, environment, people catching and handling the fish. So it is like this. You have fish dwelling in its environment, and then you have people exploiting the fish in its natural environment. Mind you, if there is no exploitation, there is nothing like a fishery. You can't talk about a fishery if the fish stocks are not being exploited. Okay. There is this, I want to show you quickly. Okay, yes, it's working. So the singular form is a fishery. That's a singular noun. And the plural form is fisheries. That is a plural form. So if you have many fishery put together, they are termed as fisheries. And there are many categories of fisheries. The fisheries can be based on gear. So you can say beach seine fishery, pearl seine fishery, depending on the type of gears that are being used. And it can also be based on the scale of production. And so you have small scale fishery and then commercial scale fishery or large scale fishery. And then you can also have a fishery that is based on technology, and that you have artisanal fishery, you have semi-industrial fishery, and then industrial fishery. And if it's about the environment, you can have marine fishery, you can have brackish water fishery, and then you can have freshwater fishery. And so it goes on and on. If it is coming from a country or based on a country, you can have Ghanaian fisheries. You can also have Somali fishery. It goes on and on. Okay, so looking at the definition, what do you see around? Looking at this picture, what is happening? You have people who have crowded at the shore, and apparently some fishermen have just landed their catch. And so you have people trooping in there to purchase some of their catch. And you can see the environment, the natural environment of the fish. And so this defines a fishery. Okay. Now let's look at some of the importance of fisheries. The importance of fisheries cannot be overemphasized. Fisheries provides us with food, as you can see, a woman enjoying some fish. And then fisheries can also provide us with employment, and we can also rely on fisheries for an income. That's a source of income. So if you look at the last picture, you have a woman who is selling the fish, and those people who are before her are trying to give her money, having bought some fish from her. And so clearly, fisheries are very important to our economy, and the fisheries can guarantee us of our food security. But if a fishery is not well regulated, and a situation whereby you have a fishery that is open access, you have a lot of people who go in there to exploit. And if the fishery is not managed, or the fisheries are not managed properly, there are going to be biological, economic, and social consequences. We shall be looking at some of the consequences as we go along. And so because of such consequences, you have governments and other authorities who intervene to manage fisheries so as to avoid or avert any future disaster. Now, let's look at what a sustainable fishery or sustainable fisheries are. Let's look at that. The rectangle in the model represents fish stock, and then the red arrows indicate the removal of fish from the stock. So you have fishing mortality, that is mortality due to fishing. And then you have, of course, some of them also die through the natural means. And so that is coined or termed as natural mortality. So it is a rate of removal. That's where a portion of the stock is removed. And then, or they die. Now, those that are dying, you have others that are being replaced, or the stock being replenished through reproduction and the rate of growth. They grow, the young ones that are recruited, they grow, and they also reproduce so as to replenish whatever is being lost. But if the rate of removal becomes higher than the rate of addition, let me put it this way, what happens is that at some point, the stocks will dwindle and this can be driven to extinction. They can go extinct. And so that type of fishery becomes unsustainable. Okay, the stock becomes unsustainable, and apparently once there is exploitation going on, it becomes a fishery. And so the fishery also becomes unsustainable. And let's look at some of the consequences. What is happening? Okay, good. So biologically, we are going to end up having low catch, or in some instances, no catch. The fishermen go for fishing and they come back with either low catch or nothing. And that will lead to low profit or no profit. And consequently, they can lead to low income or no income. And that can bring about hardship. And then can bring about hardship. Okay, so the unsustainable fishery is where the fishery can collapse and that there wouldn't be any fish stocks for future generations to depend on. And so that instance, it becomes unsustainable. But let's look at this scenario. If you have more fish that are being added to the population through reproduction, and the situation is in such a way that the young ones that are recruited into the population are allowed to also reproduce before they are caught. That way, you're going to have a fishery or fisheries that are sustainable. And so if it's going to continue like that, we are going to have some stocks that are going to be reserved for the future generation to rely on. And so the implication is that biologically, you're going to have moderate catch, and that can give us moderate profit and also moderate income. Or we can have high catch, high profit, and high income. And so such a fishery is what we are all looking up to across the globe. We are targeting to establish such fisheries where our stocks will be there for generations to come and also make use of the stocks. Okay, why is there the need for a sustainable fisheries management? Now, natural resources, for example, fish resources, they are all the more open to the use of all. And what it means here is that there is what is called open access fishery, where everybody at all can get in there. My country, Ghana, you have such a situation. Everybody at all gets in there, catches whatever he wants, and then comes home. The regulation is so limited that some of them go unnoticed. And so if that is what we have, then at some point, the stocks will be overexploited. They will be overexploited, and that can result in what is called tragedy of the commons. This was a phenomenon or a term. Let me say it's a term coined by one man called Hardin. So the stocks that is supposed to be used by all will be depleted, and there will be none for us to rely on. And so that is why there should be what is called sustainable fisheries management. And what does it do? That ensures that catches are ecologically or biologically sustainable in the long run, where you have future generations who will also come and then make use of the stocks, as I said earlier. In the same vein, sustainable fisheries management ensures that benefits to fishers and communities are maximized. So the fishermen are going to get a lot of money. They're going to get a lot of money. Oh, sorry for that. They're going to get a lot of money. Communities are going to get a lot of money and also food to rely on. Okay, now let's look at some of the approaches and some of the scopes of fisheries management. You can have a single species fisheries management, and this one, the management is focused on one species, just a single species at a time. And then we can also have a situation where several species are combined and the management is designed to cater for their welfare. And so you can have what is called multi-species fisheries management. And then you can have a situation where the management will target not only the fishes, but will also target the environment to make sure that there is a conducive environment for the fish or fishes. Mind you, a fish can be singular or plural. Or you can also say fishes if you are talking about the plural form. So the fishes can also have a serene, conducive environment to dwell. And that type of management is called ecosystem-based fisheries management. So it considers all the habitat, the interaction that exists among other fish species and the environment. Okay, now let's look at some kinds of fisheries management and actions. that are to be implemented to make sure that there is sustainability of our fishery resources. Sustainable fisheries management requires clear-cut objectives and appropriate management strategies. Let us look at some of the strategies. You have input controls. That is the effort that the fishermen put in so as to get the access to the catch. We can put some limit to that. You can control that so that the fishermen do not end up depleting the stocks. And that is what is called effort control. We can look at some of them, but let us quickly look at the three. There are three of them. And then you have what is called output control. That is the catch that is coming. There should be certain measures in place to make sure that the fishermen do not end up catching more at some point or deplete the stock at some point, but there will be some controls, some measures that they won't catch so much per day, but they will catch them bit by bit so that the stocks will not be depleted. And then you have some technical measures. You can see some of them as I present. Some of them, you have close season. I hope you have heard about close season, and you have heard about MPAs or no-take zones. These are some of the technical measures, or a situation whereby the mesh size of the net is regulated in such a way that the mesh sizes will not end up catching the juveniles. Remember, the juveniles have to grow to become adult so that they can also reproduce to add up to the population. So if the fish is not allowed to also contribute to the population, there could be a situation whereby the stocks can be depleted because now reproduction has been limited, and so no addition is being made to the population. Okay, let us look at some of the input controls. Effort. This picture is a way to show you what I am talking about exactly. The input can capture the net that they use to go to the sea, the gear to catch the fish. Some of them, as I said, they have certain mesh sizes that can end up catching the juveniles. And so the net will have to be checked. Okay, let's look at some of them. So as I said, input control is just the management of fishing effort, the effort that the fishermen put in place. You want to manage it in such a way that it will not end up depleting the stocks. And so you have number and size or power of boats. In some places, they want to make sure that the boats that the fishermen are using are not too big. If it is too big, what happens is that they will be on sea, try to catch a lot of them before they can come ashore, before they can land their catch. But if the boat is too small or has certain size, they will be compelled to come to the shore early. That is, if it is a small sized canoe or boat, they'll be compelled to land as early as possible. And then you have number of fishes that are involved in the fishing. If the number can be cut down, then in that case, the effort will not be so great. They wouldn't have more hands to catch a lot of fish. And so they'll be compelled to catch just a limited amount and then have the catch landed. And then you also have the amount, size, and type of gear. So there could be an instance where the length of the net can be prescribed in such a way that it will not go beyond a certain limit, where the fishermen, if they have a large net, they can sweep an area and catch a large volume of fish. And so that can also be regulated. And then the amount of time that they use in fishing, the fishing hours. And when you say soaking time of gears, we are talking about the period within which the gear is allowed to be in the water. So that one can also be regulated. So, and that is it. And then you have the amount of fuel that they give to the fishermen. In Ghana, you have what is called premix fuel. In some instances, the fishermen fight for it because the demand is so high that, and then at some point the supply is so low. And so they queue in numbers, try to get access to the fuel. And so the fuel can also be used to control the effort. If a fisherman does not have fuel, how can this fisherman or a crew, how can they power their canoe to go out there and do fishing? So that can be used as a measure to control the fishing effort. Okay, let's look at some forms of input control. There are other forms. You have the licensing system, where permits are given also to fishers to operate. In some instances, some fishermen are denied of permits, especially if they have a cap that this year we are going to give out this number of licenses. And so if the number goes beyond that, you are not going to issue any more licenses. So they can use that one to also limit the effort. And then effort quotas. Here you are talking about the amount of time that is dedicated for fishing per gear. So fishing gears or crew can be given a time limit that you don't have to go beyond this fishing hours. And so when the time is due, you have people, of course, that if the enforcement is not good, there's going to be a problem. All these, they should be backed by or with enforcement, high enforcement, and there should be high compliance. Otherwise, all the efforts will be in vain. Okay, and then you have vessel and gear restrictions. Here is where there's a limitation on the catching capacity of vessels. So you'll be given a quota that you have to catch this amount of fish. You don't have to go beyond a certain capacity. And that is why the control of vessel, as far as the size is concerned, is very important. There should be a standard so that even if they are going to fill the vessel or the boat or the canoe, they will fill it to the extent that when it reaches the brim, they will not have the chance to load it again. And so they'll be compelled to land their catch. But in Ghana, I doubt if this exists. You may have it on paper, but in reality, I doubt, because you go out there, the seashore, where the landing quays, you go there and you have people building their canoes. Some of them are so big that you wonder if they have been given the permit to do so. Now let's look at output control. We are talking about the catch, what is brought out. For instance, look at this picture. You have fishermen who have just landed the catch, they are hauling the net, and then, they have hauled the net and eventually they have got the code end. Code end is where the fish gets crowded. This should be the end of beach seine net, that you call it code end. So they have huge amount of water in there and they are landing that. So that is what you want to control. That is what is termed by catch control. So it's just catch management. And let's look at some of them. These actions limit the weight of fish catch, that you are given the specification or the specified weight that you should not exceed. And so if you exceed that, it is possible there could be penalties or punishment that will be meted out to you. And as I said, the monitoring and surveillance and then the enforcement will have to be in order. Otherwise, these things will not work. Let's look at some of the forms of output controls. You have limits on tonnage of fish and the number of fish that may be caught from a fishery in a period of time. You have total allowable catch, that is per year. studies are done, data are gathered on the stocks, and then they will set some reference points where they will have a target that this year we are going to have this quantity of catch, and we are not going to exceed that. Okay, and that can be shared among or allocated to the various fishermen. And so whenever they get their limit, they suspend fishing until next year is in, or until the subsequent year. Okay, and then you have individual transferable quota. This one is individual quota, the other one, the IQ, where each fisherman or crew will be given a quota. And when the quota is reached, you don't have to go beyond that. And then there could be an instance where a fisherman may decide, this one you call it individual transferable quota, that is ITQ. An individual can decide that, well, I'm not in the mood to fish, even though I've been given a quota of catch. I am not in the mood to catch fish this time around. And so I'm going to transfer my quota to a different crew, different fisherman or different crew to do the catching or the exploitation. And then the bag limits, we are talking about restrictions of the number of fish that may be landed in a day by an individual. So I think I've said this earlier, that per day, there will be an allocation that this is what we are supposed to catch. And that will be given to the fishermen. And that if it goes beyond that, they are going to face the law, or there will be punishment that will be meted out to them. And then you have what is called limits on bycatch. Bycatch, we are talking about the fish that you catch that you have not targeted or you are not targeting. So you catch them by accident. For example, if a crew of fishermen targets tuna, and then at some point in the course of catching the tuna, they end up also getting other fish. The other fish then become bycatch. And so if you are licensed to catch tuna, you should make sure that you don't end up catching a lot of bycatch, and that there should be a monitoring system to monitor those people. Otherwise, if the fishermen catch more bycatch, they can be punished. At least I know they have some quota for the bycatch that is given to them, because definitely once they're using the net, other fishes may also end up in the net. And so they're given a quota. And so it is their responsibility to make sure that they don't overcatch the bycatches. Okay, let's look at some fisheries management process. So here, it begins with policy. You have to set a policy that this year, I'm taking Ghana, for example, this year, we are going to make sure that we are going to conserve our fish stocks. And so they have to ment out a policy, and that policy will have to be implemented. For instance, if you look at the close season that was implemented, I think there was a close season in 2019 or so. And before that, the policymakers got together and then have that one set, okay, formulated. And at some point it was implemented. So there should be a policy. It begins with a policy. The policy has to be clear, and it has to capture the economic aspect as to whether the policy is going to benefit the fishermen is key. And then it should also be beneficial to the biological stocks or ecological environment, so that if certain fishermen are using bottom trawling, they will not end up destroying the environment, the sea floor, where the fishes sometimes use those areas as their habitats or their spawning grounds. So these bottom trawlers, do not destroy those environments. Okay, and then there should be targets. there should be a target that this time, like the total allowable catch, that can be set that we are going to get this volume of catch from our waters, and it doesn't have to exceed that. And in order to achieve that, there should be strategies. Okay, strategies, that's a series of action plan is put in place, and then the action is then executed. Some of the actions are the close season, the MPAs and all that. Okay, and the mesh size regulation, that you regulate the mesh size in such a way that the young ones are allowed to grow, to contribute to the population before they are caught. And then you should also, the plan, okay, the process should also capture the indicators and performance of measures, like the close season. If you implement the close season, there should be measures to measure, okay? There should be modalities to measure the impact of the close season. You don't just implement it and then you all the more carry on doing the same thing. There should be some measures to more or less measure the performance of the close season. And then the policy should be reviewed. At some point, the policy should be reviewed and evaluated so that if there is a room for improvement, then that is done over time. Okay. Now let's look at some ingredients of sustainable fisheries management. Some ingredients. What will make the sustainable fisheries management stay? There should be teamwork. Teamwork. Government, those in the government sector, those stakeholders, the fishermen, the fishmongers, the universities, the scientists, fishery scientists, they should all come together to work. Okay, especially when it comes to management plan, fisheries management plan. In the course of drafting that, you should have all these stakeholders get together to make inputs. And then the fishermen should also change their behavior. The way they fish, there should be a change in behavior. Looking at what is happening in Ghana, the kind of behavior that some fishermen have has contributed to what we are witnessing today, the declining or the dwindling trend of our fish catches. And so there should be a change in behavior. And then those in the government sector, they should also be up and doing the responsibilities that have been given to them. They should do them properly. Okay, and then such people should have the desirable attitudes, including integrity. They should be responsible enough. They should have respect for the laws and rules. In Ghana, you have rules, laws, regulations guiding our fisheries. And so fishermen or other stakeholders should have respect for those instruments. And they should also have the zeal to do things better. In the US, they are doing so well because they had the zeal to more or less replenish their stocks and to sustainably manage their fisheries. They have done that and it is working for them to a greater extent, as far as I know. I think I've been there. So I know that things are working for them. Okay. And then there should be effective communication. And government has to do that. The stakeholders will also have to do that. When you have a close season that is going to be imposed on fishing, is going to be implemented, you have to outline certain things and then make them aware, the fishermen aware, communicate that to them in advance, that this is what you have intended to do, and that this day there will be close season. And the information should be all over, so that when the time is due and it is implemented, it does not take them by a surprise. And then there should be political will to promote adequate enforcement and high compliance. And there should be timely provision of relevant and adequate assets, logistics. The Navy, those enforcement agencies, they should be given the needed resources to do their job so that the work will be done properly. And then when it comes to fisheries management plan, as I was saying, I think I said it earlier, all the relevant stakeholders, the government, the officers, the Navy officers, the scientists, the fish and fishmongers, they should all get together to draft or to come out with the management plan. So thank you very much for making time to listen to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very insightful presentation. I'll just go on to read some of the questions and comments that we have here in the chat box, and hopefully there will be enough time for you to address all of them as the Q&A session moves along. So our first question here is from Urias, and he wants to know how effectively can fisherman catch be monitored?
Could you repeat that, please?
He wants to know how effectively can the catch of fisher folk, for instance, be monitored?
Okay. Well, if you look at Ghana, you have, I think, MCS, if I'm right, those who do the monitoring and surveillance. They monitor the activities of the fishermen. Now, it is important that before this can come to light, before those who are doing monitoring and surveillance, okay, before they can do their work, officers, before they can do their work well, the fishermen will have to be registered. And so the number of fishermen should be made known to the government and the law enforcement agencies. And in every community, government should make sure that there are people on the ground who are monitoring. And in addition to that, that should not come from the government alone, but the community themselves. They can establish what is called co-management or community-based management, where they will be loyal, these fishermen will be loyal, and that whatever management plans that they have, they will put them into use. I mean, those plans into use. The rules, regulations that are set. In Ghana, if you go to the communities, they have chief fishermen, okay, who they have been elected or chosen, let me put it this way, not elected per se, not election, but they have been chosen to oversee. They have oversight responsibility of the activities of fisheries in communities. So they have to take charge of those activities to make sure that the fishermen are properly monitored. And as I indicate, this should change their behavior. They should be loyal and make sure that the right things are done. Okay, so I think that's what I can say. If there is anybody who can also contribute, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you so much. Interestingly, there's a comment here from Jose that also addresses it to some extent. He says in Cape Verde, the authorities control the fish dimensions to catch. I am getting the sense from this that he wants to say that in Cape Verde, the authorities control just how much of the fish that can be caught. So I think that's also a comment worthy of note.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me move on to the next question we have here from Linda. She says, is there really a 100% sustainable way of catching fish? Some of the methods of catching fish cause disturbance to the habitats and the breeding grounds. What are the ways fishermen can monitor their fishing activities or methods such that they don't lead to further distraction?
Okay, let me cite, well, first of all, let me say that it is difficult to say that there is 100% sustainable way of catching fish, because in Africa, for instance, it is possible that you can have some bad nets in there, okay? But even what you term as a sustainable fish net might not be, it might be good for one stock or it might conserve one stock, but may also cause harm to others. And so there's no 100% sustainable way of catching fish. But what we are saying is that the fishermen, especially, let's look at the mesh size regulation, mesh size, the nets that they use. If the mesh sizes are scaled up and they are so big, they will just catch the adults, okay, and will not target the young ones, which will later on be part of the brooding stock, which will be contributing to the increase in the population size. And so the fishermen, as I said, they should look at their nets to make sure that the mesh sizes are great. And then government can also introduce some closed season. In Ghana, it's being done, but it has not been consistent, where at some point of the year, fishermen will be out of fishing and they will not fish. That's to allow the, how do you call it, the spawning period of fish to be well done, where the fishes will have the chance to breed without any disturbances, or the young ones that are being brought into the system will be allowed to grow. And then causing disturbance to the habitat. I know that for bottom trawling, it is not good at all, because the way they do it, it ends up destroying the habitat. But if it is done in the mid-water, that is in the water column, where their stuff does not touch the ground, that is much more safer. And so the fishermen can also go into that. And again, they should be given a quota, because one soup can catch a lot of fishes. Just one soup can catch a lot of fishes. And so it will be good that they practice what is called mid-water trawl with very good or standard mesh sizes. That will be helpful to them. I don't know if I've addressed the concerns.
Yeah, thank you so much for that detailed response. We have a rather complex question here from Sonigitu, and he says, please kindly elaborate on relationships and influence of ocean economy and accounts on fisheries accounts, and how we can graphically explain them to policymakers.
Oceans economy, right?
Yes, I believe he wants to know about the linkages between the fisheries accounts and then ocean economy accounts, more broadly speaking, and then how these can be graphically explained to policymakers. So Nigito, if you can also provide further clarification on your question in the chat box, that would be highly useful.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, straight to what I'm trying to seek for. It's we have the ocean economy, which is the blue economy, and then you have an ocean account. There are discussion on global ocean partnership, account partnership, and within the ocean account, you have sub other accounts. Now, looking at fisheries as a stock from your explanation, how do we create a fisheries account that promotes? Because this is some challenge we have in West Africa, where you look at the small pelagic, which is not properly managed. And then we have a lot of challenge. The communities and policymakers seems not to have clarity on the benefits. So how do we do that? Thank you.
Okay, so if I get you clearly, we want to know how our pelagic fish stocks can be managed effectively. Is that the case?
Okay, yeah, fine. At least as a sub-sector, but it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me indicate that for the small pelagic fish stocks, I think majority of them are migratory. In Ghana, they are dominated by sardinellas. You have flat sardinella and round sardinella. And studies have shown that they migrate to other countries, like, that is, I'm using Ghana as an example, like Cote d'Ivoire. They even go beyond Senegal and other places, and then Benin, Togo, and other places. I think up all the way to Nigeria and Co. And so for these stocks to be managed properly, there should be a holistic approach where all the countries, okay, they come together and then make a plan for the fish stocks. And whatever plans that they make, the strategies, the rules, the regulations, all the fishermen in these countries will have to adhere to that. So it doesn't look like if the Ghanaian people are adhering to the rules, regulations that are set, other people are flouting that. And so the desirable results will not be at hand. And so they should use a holistic approach in solving such a problem. And it all goes down again to the type of net that they use, the gears that they use. If they are done properly in such a way that they do not target the young ones, and then they do not catch lots of fish at the point, I think that will go a long way to sustain our fishery. So it shouldn't be limited to just one country doing his own thing, in as much as the stocks are shared. That will not help. I don't know if I've addressed your question.
Thank you. I got a lot of clarification there. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, great. So we can quickly then move on to the next question. There's a question here from Ivaldo. He says, is the management of shallow water and deep water... Okay, let me rephrase it for him. He's saying, does the management of shallow water and deep water have the same inputs? If not, how can we do it for these two places?
Okay. All right, that's a good question. You know, there is a school of thought that those fish stocks that are found in our inshore waters are usually exploited by the local fishermen. And then those in the deeper waters are exploited by foreigners. You have foreign fleets that go all the way because they have powerful vessels to reach those places in order to exploit those stocks there. And so, but again, some of these foreign vessels, they are licensed in Ghana, and the activities can be monitored. If enforcement is good, the activities can be monitored. But let me give this scenario. I think it's something that happened in Ghana. At some point, they had some observers on board where they could go out with the fishermen and they could take records. But at some point, one of them got missing. Until date, they have not got any information about his whereabouts. And so the situation became scary. And I believe that even now, if you assign someone to be on a vessel to go out and be observing, I don't think many people will be willing to go. Even if people go, it'll just be a handful of people. And so that is a problem. But enforcement is key. If you can get people helping them, to go out there to monitor their activities, that will go a long way to help our fisheries. And in Ghana, there has been a law that those who are fishing in deeper waters should not come into the inshore waters. They should not fish within our inshore waters. And I think that is a good thing to do, so that the small ones that are left in our terrain, in our territorial waters can be used by the local fishermen. But again, the local fishermen will also have to do the right things and follow the laws, so that together our stocks will not be depleted. I don't know if I've answered the question, but that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for that. We have another question from Ivaldo. He wants to again know, what about bycatch for marine protected species? How How is this case treated?
Okay. What about the bycatch for marine protected species?
Species, yeah.
The question is not so clear to me, but
Okay,
I don't
let
know.
me call on him to provide further clarification. Ivaldo, are you on? Could you perhaps provide some clarification on your question? Kindly unmute your microphone just in case you do want to provide that clarification. If not, we can move on to the next question and see if he will chip in later with his clarification. Is that okay with you, Dr. Arizi? Should I move on to the next question?
Yes, but maybe I can talk about the bycatch and then marine protected species. The bycatch, I think I explained that in some fisheries, they target a certain species, and because these species move with other fish types or species, they end up catching all of them together. But the rule is that sometimes you're given a quota that you don't have to catch the other fishes that you are not targeting. You don't have to exceed a certain quota. And it said marine protected species. I don't know what type of marine protected species, or is he trying to say that the bycatch should be species that are protected? I mean, they should be protected so that they are not exploited by the fishermen. And if that's the case, it's going to be a problem because these bycatches that we are talking about, those species that you see them as bycatches, as I said, they move together with the target species. And so definitely they will by all means catch some of the fishes that are tagged as bycatches. But there's a quota, and the fishermen should be smart enough not to, or they should be sensible enough not to catch a certain number that goes beyond the normal, and so that they will not be punished. Yeah, I think that's what I can say.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that response. There's another question again from Sonigitu, and he wants to know if you can advise on a better approach for connecting the dots to enhancing coordination that is inclusive of citizen science, he said.
Okay, I think if I get it clearly, he's trying to say that can you make it possible where everyone will be, all the hands will be on deck? Is that the case? Is that not the case? That all of them will be on deck?
Sonigitu, can you clarify for us, please?
Yes, that is the case. He got the understanding of the question.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So first of all, it's interesting to know that in Ghana, some fishermen think that when it rains, fishes are brought from heaven into the waters. And so they think that the fishes are never going to run out. They will never be depleted. They will never go extinct because all the more it has been raining. At least you have rainy season in Ghana. And at that time, they think that this is when fishes are rained into the environment. But it's never like that. Even if it is so, I don't know. Studies have not established that. And now what happens is that the young ones that are reproduced, they end up replacing the adults that we catch or the adults that die through natural means. And it is not easy. It takes time for this to happen. The spawning doesn't happen, or the reproduction doesn't happen all of a sudden overnight. It takes time. And that is why scientists, you do studies to establish all that. But coming to your question, what I'm saying is that scientists should also do their job where they can explain the population dynamics of fish, to the fishermen. And I'm trying to write a proposal for a grant where I can do some videos, do some charts, and go out to the fishermen or fishing communities. And I'll show those videos to them as to how the stocks get replenished. the reproduction, how the fish reproduces, and then young ones added to the. And so scientists are also trying to do research, doing their best. And the government should also provide some support when it comes to studies, when it comes to research. Government should do its best. And then enforcement. Government should also do the best to show, to provide the logistics for the enforcement agencies. And all the more government should lead. In Ghana, what happens is that the leaders, those in government, they have the power. And all the more citizens tend to listen to them. So they should take a lead, and they should be organizing fora where all the fish stakeholders will be present, and what presentations will be made, ideas will be brought together, plans will be made, management plans will be drafted by all of them, where all hands are on deck. The fishermen will bring concerns. The concerns should be addressed satisfactorily, and then there should be commitment. A government doesn't have to say something and then boycotts it at some point or ignores that at some point. Government should show commitment, should be honest, whatever promises that he brings on board and that have been approved by the fishermen, they should all go by that. And when there is honesty, I think that all of the stakeholders can come together and we can save our fisheries. I think that's what I can say. If there's anything later on, I can address that. I don't know if I've been able to answer the question.
All right, thank you so much for that response.
Hello.
Yes, is that Ivaldo? Who's speaking?
Jose.
Yeah.
Jose. So if it's possible, I have some comment.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So during this lecture, we see that it's very important management the fishery. So the fishery management creates the tools to control inputs and outputs, create a policy to make the system better, good. But in my opinion, the management must be shown to the fishermen, to instruct they, to show the importance of management today. So we know that the most part of fishermen don't have any some knowledge or a theory knowledge about the management. So the authority must make a sensibilization of all fishermen to understand, because sometimes they think that is just a theory. For example, in Cape Verde, they don't trust in the politics, so they think that is just a way of the authority to make a money, to control them professionals. So okay.
All right, I think.
Okay, so let me quickly say this.
Yeah.
The management plans that are made, it shouldn't be a situation where it will only come, or those plans will come from only the government. If that is going to be the case, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be problematic. The fishermen should be involved. In fact, they should even start, and then government should be there with them and other stakeholders, as I said. It should be that all hands should be on deck, and the management plan should come out from all the stakeholders. There should be a joint collaboration where all of them will end up bringing the management, so that it wouldn't be like the government has done its own thing and has brought it out for fishermen to follow. That would be difficult. But once the fishermen are involved, it will be difficult for them to kick against their own product, something that they have been involved in making it. Yeah, so the fishermen should be involved when it comes to management, fisheries management, formulation or creation. the draft. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Arizi.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. In my question, I was meaning like I understand by catch like as the catch you made accidentally. So if I accidentally catch a species that is protected like a turtle, how can we deal with it, this case? I was meaning like this.
So that was Ivaldo trying to provide some greater clarification on his question earlier. I'm not quite sure I got that. Dr. Arizi, did you?
No, not really. I think well, I don't know. Maybe what he's trying to say is that, is it possible we can establish marine protected areas for the bycatch? Is that the question?
No. I was saying that what I understood about bycatch is the catch you made accidentally, isn't it?
The bycatch, it will do what?
Is the catch you made accidentally?
He's asking
No,
whether
so,
bycatch
yeah.
is accidental catch.
Accidental catch. Okay,
Yeah.
those fishes that you have not intended to catch, but they end up being in your net, those constitute bycatches or bycatch.
Yes.
And I give an example that if you are targeting tuna, and then in the course of catching the tuna, you end up getting sardinella, mackerel in your net. Mackerel, and then sardinella then become your bycatch in this case. Okay.
Yes. And I was asking if your bycatch is a marine protected species like a turtle.
Okay.
How can you deal with it?
Well,
Bycatch.
I did indicate that these fishes, they are in the same environment, and all the more they move together. Let me put it this way, or they mingle, they mix up. And your net will not just go and say that, oh, tuna, come and enter, the rest you go. It's not going to be so. So whether sardinella is protected or not, whether mackerel is protected or not, definitely some of them will end up in the net together with the tuna. But that is where the government or the law enforcement agencies, let me put it this way, or the law, the Fisheries Act will say that, well, you are allowed to get some bycatch in your net, but it should not go beyond this limit. So there's a limit to that. If it goes beyond that, you will be punished. In Ghana, I know it is there, you'll be punished. But as to whether it is practical, it is real, people are going by that, I don't know. But I know in the Fisheries Act is there. So you can catch some, but you don't have to go beyond a certain limit. I hope it's clear.
Yes, I'm clear. I was imagining an extreme situation that we have just 2 or 3 turtles in the ocean that we are trying to monitor it, and then a vessel catch it. Yeah, but I catch. Understand.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you, Ivaldo, for the question, and thank you, Dr. Arizi, for providing clarification on that. I can tell from the volume of questions and comments we have in the chat box that this presentation was very insightful to the participants, and they definitely want to get more out of you. Unfortunately, though, the time is up, and we wouldn't want to take much more of your time addressing the volume of questions and comments we have here. So we just want to take a moment to thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights on sustainable fisheries management with us today. We truly enjoyed the discussions, and I'm sure the participants will agree with me. that we truly enjoyed the discussions that resulted from the presentation, as well as the presentation itself. And we certainly look forward to engaging with you more in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you so much, Dr. Arizi. We'll just leave you to get on with your routine now, and I'll ask the rest of the participants to stay on the call as we continue with our scheduled interactive session.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. You're always welcome. And all the best to the participants. Have a great day.
All right, have a good day too.
Yeah.